Shabbat Shalom and welcome back to Grim Survival and the reading of the scriptures. And I was wondering where I left that bookmark. It just fell out in my lap. We left off right at the end of Genesis last week. We were picking up at Exodus, or as my book calls it, Shemot. I don't speak Hebrew, so anyway. Alright, before we get started, the Shema, as I usually do, you can find it in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4. And I'm going to recite from memory this time because I didn't save the bookmark where it needed to be saved. So, anyway, hear, O Israel, Yahweh, our Elohim. Yahweh is one, and we will love Yahweh, our Elohim, with all of our heart, with all of our being, and with all of our might. Yes, we will. Alright, before I get started, I have a disclaimer. I have not slept much at all in the past 48 hours. Like literally not much at all. I have been awake and doing things most of the day until the sun set, when I decided to relax finally, or when I was, compelled to relax and observe the Sabbath. So, that being said, the first chapter of Exodus is full of Hebrew names. Yeah, this is going to be fun. And I really should probably take out these contacts because my eye looks all red on the camera for some reason. Yeah, I think I haven't taken my contacts out in like 3 to 4 days either. I'm not going to do it on camera. I'll do it after. Don't want to disturb anybody by sticking my fingers in my eye. I'm not looking forward to the first chapter of Exodus just because of all the names. The names, I don't speak Hebrew, and my book these are Hebrew names. This is going to be torturous. So I would like to pull up a program I have on my computer here. It's not going to help me with the names. I just wanted to remember what it was called. The program is called eSword. You can download it. It's completely free, and what it is a study helper. It already has the scriptures that I'm reading from programmed into it by default, and you can compare the scriptures to any other version that's already installed in this, just side-by-side screens, and you can make notes, and you can do all kinds of things with this program. This is really a cool program, and I very much like it. Maybe it will help a little bit with the names. It kind of, I don't know, breaks them down a little bit. There are certain places in here where you can click like certain chapters, and it will give you a overview of the chapter. For instance, and for Exodus chapter 1, verse 1 through 14, it says, the children of Israel afflicted, and it has a couple of paragraphs there. I'm not going to read it because I do want to mention before we get started, I did on Monday to Patreon post an extended Bible study. I kind of briefly overviewed, I guess you could say, the entire book of Genesis for that one. I'm going to try to do that every Monday on Patreon, and for this Monday I will be just covering whatever chapters I read in Exodus. And I'm trying to find more study tools to help guide myself through this, and I'm going to share that with you over on Patreon if anybody is interested in that. Alright, let's get to it. Names. Alright, chapter 1 of Exodus. We finally made it. And these are the names of the children of Israel who came to Mitzrayim, Egypt, with Jacob, or Yaakov, each one with his household: Reuben, Shimeon, Levi, and Yehuda, Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin. It's Benjamin, more than likely. Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. And all those who were descendants of Jacob were 70 beings, as Joseph was already in Mitzrayim. And Joseph died and all his brothers, and all that generation. And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased very much, multiplied and became very strong, and the land was filled with them. Then a new sovereign, or king, arose over Mitzrayim, who did not know Joseph. And he said to his people, See, the people of the children of Israel are more and stronger than we. Come, let us act wisely toward them, lest they increase. And it shall be, when fighting befalls us, that they shall join our enemies and fight against us, and shall go up out of the land. So they set slave masters over to afflict them with their burdens, and they built for Pharaoh supply cities, Pithom and Ramses, or Ramesses, I don't know. It looks like Ramses to me. But the more they afflicted them, and the more they increased and grew, and they were in dread of the children of Israel. And the Mitzrayites made the children of Israel serve with his harshness, and they made their lives bitter with hard bondage in mortar and in brick and in all kinds of work in the field. All their work which they made to them to do was with harshness. The sovereign of Mitzrayim spoke to the Hebrew midwives, of whom the name of one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other Puah, P-U apostrophe A-H, Puah, I believe. And he said, When you deliver the Hebrew women, see them on the birth stools. If it is a son, then you shall put him to death. If it is a daughter, then she shall live. But the midwives feared Elohim, and did not do as the sovereign of Mitzrayim commanded them, and kept the male children alive. So the sovereign of Mitzrayim called for the midwives and said to them, Why have you done this, and kept the male children alive? And the midwives said to Pharaoh, Because the Hebrew women are not like the Mitzrayim women, for they are lively and give birth before the midwives come to them. So Elohim was good to the midwives, and the people increased and became very numerous. The Father protected them because they were obeying his will and not the will of the sovereign or the king. 21. And it came to be, because the midwives feared Elohim, that he provided households for them. See? And Pharaoh commanded all his people, saying, Throw every son who is born into the river, and keep every daughter. Not as many names as I had remembered from the last time I read this, actually. I am a lot further ahead than this, and I have read the book before. It's just not this particular book. I've never read the scriptures all the way through. I have been skimming through it here and there and reading ahead like I told you, but never this particular one. I have a King James I've actually read the parts of the NIV, the New International Version. I have a New King James Version, which is better English. I have, how many other ones do I have? I have a lot. The one they put in the hotel rooms, I've read that one. I read pretty much the entire New Testament out of that one. Yeah, I have a lot of these books, but the scriptures is fairly new to me, so I'm very much enjoying it, and I highly recommend it. It is definitely my favorite out of any translation I have read thus far. Anyway, stop procrastinating, learn words, and let's move on to chapter 2, and mute this thing so it stops making those annoying sounds. Anyway, chapter 2. And a man of the house of Levi, or Lewi as it is pronounced here, went and married a daughter of Levi. And the woman conceived and bore a son. And she saw that he was a lovely child, and she hid him 3 months. And when she could hide him no longer, she took an ark of wicker for him, and coated it in tar and pitch, and put the child in it, and laid it in the reeds by the edge of the river. And his sister stood at a distance to know what would become, or what would be done to him. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river, and her young women were walking by the riverside. And when she saw the ark among the reeds, she sent her female servant to get it. New page. And opened it and saw the child, and see, the baby wept. So she had compassion on him and said, This is one of the children of the Hebrews. And his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, Shall I go and call a nurse for you from the Hebrew women to nurse the child for you? And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, Go. And the young woman went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, Take this child away and nurse him for me. Then I shall pay your wages. So the woman took the child and nursed him. It's funny how the father works, right? And the child grew, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called his name Moshe, or some translations Moses, but Moshe in Hebrew, saying, Because I have drawn him out of water. And in those days it came to be, when Moshe was grown, that he went out to his brothers and looked at their burdens. And he saw a Mitzrayite striking a Hebrew, one of his brothers. So he turned this way and that way, and when he saw no one, he struck the Mitzrayite and hid him in the sand. He killed him. I know further in this Bible, or this particular book of the Bible, we will get into the Ten Commandments about the differences between thou shalt not murder, which is what the translation should say, and thou shalt not kill, which is what other translations say. There is a huge difference between those two words. But anyway, we'll get there later. 13. And when he went out the second day and saw two Hebrew men fighting, and he said to the one who did the wrong, Why do you strike your neighbor? And he said, Who made you head and judge over us? Do you intend to kill me as you killed the Mitzrayite? And Moshe feared and said, Truly, the matter is known. Somebody threw him under the bus. Or threatened to. Yep, he threw him under the bus. 15. And Pharaoh heard of this matter, and he sought to kill Moshe. But Moshe fled from the face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian, I don't know. And he sat down by a well. And the priest of Midian, had 7 daughters. The priest had 7 daughters. That's an interesting sentence there. And they came and drew water, and they filled the troughs to water their father's flock. But the shepherds came and drove them away. And Moshe stood up and came to their rescue, and watered their flocks. And they came to Reuel, their father, and he said, How is it that you have come so soon today? And they said, A Mitzrayite rescued us from the hand of the shepherds, and he also drew enough water for us and watered the flock. And he said to his daughters, And where is he? Why did you leave the man? Call him and let him eat bread. And Moshe agreed to dwell with the man, and he gave Sippora, his daughter, to Moshe. And she bore him a son, and he called his name Gresham, for he said, I have become a sojourner in a foreign land. And it came to be after these many days that the sovereign of Mitzrayim died, and the children of Israel groaned because of the slavery, and they cried out, and their cry came up to Elohim because of the slavery. And Elohim heard their groaning, and Elohim remembered his covenant with Abraham, or Abraham, as it is sometimes pronounced, with Isaac and with Jacob. And Elohim looked on the children of Israel, and Elohim knew. Of course he knew. How could he not know? I mean, he knows it all. I'm going to go ahead with 3, but I'll probably stop after that because I really need to go to sleep. And I keep feeling like I'm going to sneeze, but I'm just not. Anyway, chapter 3. And Moshe was shepherding the flock of Yithro, or Jethro as it would probably be pronounced, because the Y is always replaced with a J in English for some reason. But Yithro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock to the back of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of Elohim. And the messenger of Yahweh appeared to him in a flame of fire and from the midst of a bush. And he looked and saw the bush burning with fire, but the bush was not consumed. And Moshe said, "Let me turn aside now and see this great sight, why the bush does not burn." And Yahweh saw that he had turned aside to see, and Elohim called to him from the midst of the bush and said, "Moshe, Moshe." And he said, "Here I am." I mean, that's what you say when a burning bush is yelling at your name, right? Here I am. Anyway, verse 5. And he said, "Do not come near here. Take your sandals off your feet, for the place on which you are standing is set apart ground." And he said, "I am the Elohim of your father, the Elohim of Abraham, and the Elohim of Isaac, and the Elohim of Jacob." And Moshe hid his face, for he was afraid to look at Elohim. And Yahweh said, "I have indeed seen the oppression of my people who are in Mitzrayim, and have heard their cry because of their slave drivers, for I know their sorrows. And I have come down to deliver them from the hand of the Mitzrayites, and to bring them up from the land to a good, spacious land, to a land flowing with milk and honey, to the place of the Canaanites, and the Hittites, and the Amorites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites. There's a lot of ites in these words. And now, see, the cry of the children of Israel has come to me, and I have also seen the oppression with which the Mitzrayites oppress them. And now come, I am sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the children of Israel, out of Mitzrayim. And Moshe said to Elohim, "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh, and that I should bring the children of Israel out of Mitzrayim?" And he said, "Because I am with you." He, capital H. He. Because I am with you. And this is to you the sign that I have sent you. When you have brought the people out of Mitzrayim, you are to serve Elohim on this mountain. And Moshe said to Elohim, "See, when I come to the children of Israel and say to them, the Elohim of your fathers has sent me to you, and they say to me, what is his name? What shall I say to them?" This is the good part. 14. And Elohim said to Moshe, "I am that which I am." And he said, "Thus you shall say to the children of Israel, I am has sent me to you." And Elohim said further to Moshe, "Thus you are to say to the children of Israel, Yahweh, Elohim of your fathers, and Elohim of Abraham, the Elohim of Isaac, and the Elohim of Jacob has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and this is my remembrance to all generations." We're still having generations, right? "Go, and you shall gather the elders of Israel together, and say to them, Yahweh, Elohim of your fathers, Elohim of Abraham, of Isaac, and of Jacob appeared to me, saying, I have indeed visited you, and seen what is done to you in Mitzrayim. And I say, I am bringing you up out of the affliction of Mitzrayim to the land of Canaanites, and the Hittite, and the Amorite, and the Perizzite, and the Hittite, and the Jebusite, to a land flowing with milk and honey." These names. "And they shall listen to your voice, and you shall come, you and the elders of Israel, to the sovereign of Mitzrayim, and you shall say to him, Yahweh, Elohim of the Hebrews, has met with us, and now please let us go 3 days' journey into the wilderness to slaughter to Yahweh our Elohim. But I know that the sovereign of Mitzrayim is not going to let you go, not even by a strong hand. And I shall stretch out my hand and strike Mitzrayim with all my wonders, which I shall do in its midst. And after that he shall let you go. And I shall give this people favor in the eyes of the Mitzrayites. And it shall be when you go, you shall not go empty-handed, but every woman shall ask from her neighbor and from her who sojourns in her house objects of silver, objects of gold, and garments, and you shall put them on your sons and on your daughters, and shall plunder the Mitzrayites." They're gonna plunder them. There's a lot of insights right there. I mean, a lot of them, and I will cover it more on Monday. But just being obedient, and having the nerve when a bush is burning to say, "Here I am." I mean, just, I have this image in my mind of a bush burning near me personally, and I'm just standing there and I hear my name coming from this burning bush that's not actually being consumed by fire. And what do I say? James, hey James. I'm like, I'm out, dude. Yeah, gone. The bush is talking to me. I done lost my mind. What was in the food I ate earlier? I mean, seriously, I mean, how many people among us as humans throughout our history would have the gall to just say, "Here I am"? How many of us could actually truthfully say that they would just, say it like that? "Here I am. I'm right here, man. What's that?" I mean, that is, yeah. That's impressive. Let's just put it that way. I am overly tired, if you cannot tell, and I'm going to call it a night now. This video obviously will be up Saturday early morning for you guys, anybody who's following this. And for the rest of Saturday, I'm going to relax and read, study, spend some time with family, and just do the things that we should be doing on the Sabbath. And I do mean we, because it says in that book, everyone, forever. It says it. I read it. So, yeah, the Sabbath is a day of rest, and we should definitely not forget it. We really shouldn't. And I encourage you to rest. Be restful. There are a lot of controversial things about what you can and can't do that day, what you can and can't do this day. But, just pray about it and go with what he tells you. I mean, just stop and listen. The day is really just to relax and spend time with the Father, spend time with your family, stick your nose in the book, which you should be doing every day anyway, and just, enjoying yourself. It's let the stress of everything that's going on around you, around the world, around the nation, just let it fade away for one day. Stay away from the news, because that's not good. And just be mindful of what the Father wants you to be doing that day. Be mindful of it, because that's what I am attempting to do. It's not always easy. It's not. Sometimes I slip up, but that's why we have Yeshua, the Messiah, or Jesus the Christ. That's why we have him, to save us from when we mess up. So remember that as well. Anyway, thank you all for listening. I appreciate you being here, and have a very blessed day. Shalom, everybody.